DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Wednesday, August the 14th. I'm your host, Michael Leva. Not joined by Big E, Ian Burr, like he is each and every Wednesday. A little under the weather this week. So we've called on the backup quarterback, the pride of Western New York, a man who's bowled more 300 games than the Miami Dolphins have playoff wins in their organization's history, Tom Ernest. Tom, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. I hope Big E is mending and feeling better, but I'm happy to join you on a Wednesday and talk some Dolphins football. We got a lot to discuss.
How many 300 games have you bowled?
7.
7? Good Lord, that's a lot. Congratulations. All right. We got a lot to talk about on today's show, but before we get to any of that, as always, a big shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, your Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, and all the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? Don't worry. Visit Caneswear.com to shop the inventory from the comfort of your home. And yes, they will ship internationally as well. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com. We all love Caneswear. Tom, we'll be there soon enough when we're in South Florida visiting. So I want to scroll that one. Whatever. It's not scrolling. Dolphins Talk Extra, if you're watching on YouTube. Everyone check out Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk Extra. If you want, this is all the free stuff and it will stay free. Bonus content, extra content, more shows, interactive shows where you, the listener, can come on shows with myself, with Josh, with Aaron. Maybe Tom will pop on one every now and then too. And if you think we're wrong, you can tell us straight to our face on a podcast that all the people will see. We have a message board back there. On Twitter, sometimes you'll put up a thought or an opinion. Everyone jumps down your throat because it's not popular. Our message board is more laid back. It's cool. It's an easier place to chat with fellow fans of the Dolphins. We're going to have fantasy leagues, pick'em contests, survivor pools, where we're giving away really cool prizes like this Tyreek Hill thing right here and some others. So, folks, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Sign up. It's only $3 a month or $5 a month for bonus content, extra content. Okay, let's get to the news. Oh, before I do, for those of you who listen each and every day, your daily reminder that vividseats.com still sucks. Okay, if you listen to the show this week, you know why. Not going to go into it. I just said my mission in life will use every platform to make them pay, and that's what I'm doing. Because, Tom, I told people, people say, why do you do a podcast? You don't make tons of money. It takes up a lot of time. I go, there's only 2 reasons to host a podcast. Get free food, hurt your enemies. Vividseats.com is now an enemies. I must destroy them. So just want to point out that they still suck. All right. So the Miami Dolphins today, Tom, they released Tyreek Tart the other day, and today they signed Robert Big Coop Cooper out of Florida State. Spent some time on the practice squad with Philadelphia and Seattle. Long shot to make the team. But anyone with the nickname Big Coop, I like him. So bring him in the mix. Let's see what he can do here in the next couple of weeks of training camp. And Mike McDaniel, God love him. I love coach speak. When these coaches speak, I love coaches that go with the old school coach speak. Mike McDaniel, when asked today at his media session, why did the Dolphins move on from Tyreek Tart, said it wasn't a scheme fit, which is a nice way to saying he was fat, out of shape, lazy. The same reason he played himself out of the Titans last year. He didn't care. But not a scheme fit. We'll go with that, I guess, as the public opinion, Tom.
Well, it was a nice way to say, get the F out,
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think he played in the preseason game last week.
No, he didn't even dress.
So that's a problem. In the preseason, if you don't dress, you got some issues. I know he saw
Unless your name's Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got problems.
Yes. So I saw that he visited the Chargers, whatever. Bring in Big Coop.
Let's go,
Why
Big
not?
Coop.
He was a decent player at Florida State.
He was.
He's a body for the next 2 preseason games, and see what he can bring to the table. If all else fails, maybe if he does fit the scheme, and he plays okay in the preseason, there might be a chance he can get on the practice squad if the Dolphins like him enough. But we'll see how he performs in the preseason. I'm sure he's going to get a longer look. So, guys that are making the team aren't putting their bodies on the line for a long period of time in the preseason game, especially this week. I have a feeling that we'll see the starters for at least the series against the Commanders. We'll see how it goes during joint practices that start tomorrow. And if they perform well in the joint practices, we may not even see the starters in the game on Saturday, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. I want to see more fights at practice. That speech that Ramsey gave a few weeks back to the team after practice, we're not going to be pushed around. We're not going to be shoved around no more. We're going to be the bullies. And then we saw 3 fights in practice with the Falcons. And then even that preseason game, there were more than a few plays. Yeah, there were more than a few plays where they got up. They shoved the guy for the RT. Like, we ain't taking it. So I want to see that carryovers on Thursday when they practice with Washington and then in the game. In other news, Benito Jones is day-to-day. He hasn't been practicing. It doesn't seem like a major injury, but just something to monitor now. Benito Jones does have an injury. Jaylen Ramsey, again, has a minor injury. He's missed a few practices in a row now, and Mike McDaniel says they're being proactive by holding him out. So, again, nothing serious there. But when guys miss more than a couple in a row, that's when it sort of pops on your radar, like you got to start, just keep an eye on. Someone who doesn't sound like he's coming back anytime soon is Isaiah Wynn. Isaiah Wynn has, per Mike McDaniel, compounding injuries to the lower body. And it sounds like, as well, from how it was worded, the injury he had last year to his quad wasn't just like a normal quad injury. It was like more on the severe side. So I would not be shocked, Tom, if we see Isaiah Wynn start the year on PUP, meaning he has to miss at least the first 4 games, possibly more. I do not see him returning to this roster or returning to camp here, as I speak wrongly, returning to camp here anytime soon. Because usually, as I've been saying, even with Jalen Phillips, you got to get a couple weeks of practice in before you can actually play. You just can't come off PUP a week before and be like, see you next Sunday on the field. It don't work that way. And when it comes to Wynn and some of these other guys, if they're still on PUP early next week, which it sounds like Wynn, he probably will be, probably going to start the year on PUP and miss the first month. Again, is it the end of the world? No, because I don't think he's very good anyways. But just another guy who the first month of the year we will probably be without.
Yeah, it's unfortunate with him. I know that injury seemed severe when they talked about it last year, the fact that he was put on IR. I mean, I think it was like a day or two after the game against the Patriots when he got hurt.
I think it was the Eagles game he got hurt.
Was it the Eagles?
Last game of October, yeah.
So it stinks, and this offensive line, it can't bleed out as much as they have been at this point. Aaron Brewer's not practicing for a few more weeks. Hopefully he's ready by week 1. Who knows? But it's a problem. The Dolphins have to address the position. They have to address the position. I understand Rob Jones is doing okay in camp. He's a good road grader, not a great pass blocker. And then you got Liam Eichenberg starting at right guard. I'd rather have Eichenberg.
He's starting at center now.
Yeah, now he's at center. I would rather have him as a backup lineman because of his versatility than him physically starting every game. Besides, it gives me Tourette's when I watch him try to block.
Ajda. You get Ajda, Tom.
I get Ajda, yeah. It's not from the Bolognese when I have it on Sundays. It's from watching this offensive line try to block outside of Jackson and Armstead. So hopefully the Dolphins are scouting. They could be scouting some of these guys, and Washington, who are backups, maybe they can pluck one away. Again, the Steelers situation with how many offensive linemen they drafted this year, and there's a potential expendable one. I would love to see them pull the trigger and bring in someone who's more than just okay. I'd rather get someone who's like a above average starter at one of those guard positions, and kick Eichenberg to the bench. If not, he's a center until Aaron Brewer gets back. But we still got time to figure it out, but time's ticking away, and they have to get it addressed.
Did you see the trade the other day that Seattle made with Cleveland?
Yeah, what the hell are the Dolphins doing not making that trade?
That annoyed the heck out of me. So Nick Harris was the Browns starting center last year. He's a free agent, signed with Seattle. Seattle then signs Connor Williams. Cleveland loses their center in the preseason game. He's probably out for the year, I think. So they call up Seattle, and they get Nick Harris back for a 6th-round pick. And so they get Harris in a 7th for a 6th.
Yeah, Dolphins have 11
or 12.
Miami
couldn't have made that trade? They're going to have 10 picks next year once they get the 3 compensatory picks. They will have, so that means right now you got 7 you can trade, and you're going to have 10 total. You have 3 in around 7 alone. You're telling me they couldn't have parted with something for Nick? I mean, not that Nick Harris is Dwight Stevenson, but considering all the guys who can't snap the ball on our team, I'm just saying, throwing it out there. Call me crazy.
And
trades like that can be had.
Yeah, the Browns' offensive line is fairly decent, so he was the center on that offensive line. When healthy, for sure. Yeah, they've been good.
When healthy, because they lost Chubb, and they kept filing in new running back after new running back. They didn't miss a beat. They were running 4 or 5 yards a clip, and they kept filing through all their quarterbacks and running backs. They didn't miss a beat. That offense kept rolling. Why? Because they had an offensive line that could push people around, not get pushed around. Just saying that's how sometimes it works. Javon Holland has a minor injury. Nothing probably to worry about there. Mohamed Kamara missed a week of practice, but he did return today. And so this weekend, we saw all the rookies last week play, which is great. And I think this week we're going to see Chop and Mohamed Kamara play. And hopefully, they live up and play to the high standards that the rookies last week played to, like Patrick McMorris, Patrick Paul, Jaylen Wright, and Washington, who were sensational last week versus Atlanta. You don't see that many rookies play so good in their first preseason game, and they all played fantastic. And if Mohamed Kamara and Chop Robinson look just as good this week, and if those guys play well again, wow, Tom, that's a draft class. I know it's only preseason games, and they're going up with guys who aren't going to be here, who won't be in the league. But we've seen years where the guys that we picked look like they never played the sport before. And these guys who we picked, at least for 1 week, hopefully 2 this week, they actually look like they might have a future in the NFL.
They might.
I'm not saying superstars, but just as a contributor. No. They're not going to be Channing Tindall, who never plays. You know what I mean? Like, they might actually be some of these guys might be second string guys here, which is amazing.
Yeah. I like the depth that they've developed. Now that Jalen Phillips is back, it looks so much nicer from a depth perspective than it did prior to him coming off a pup. I was a little concerned, with the pass rushers, Emmanuel Ogbah back on a 1-year deal. And with Phillips back, you're not throwing the rookies to the wolves. You're allowing them to develop. You're allowing them to kind of rotate in and be in on pass rushing situations, which, clearly we know that Chop Robinson's going to, in my opinion, is going to be a specialist on second and longs and third downs. He's going to be on the football field at many points during the season because of his pass rushing ability and how quickly he can get to the quarterback and blow up plays. I'm sure Weaver's got some designs for him. And, Kamara has had a good camp prior to his injury. I'm expecting that we're going to see both Chop and Mohamed Kamara play in the preseason game on Saturday, as long as they're with a clean bill of health, but it seems like both are going to be fine. That they got to get some reps in. Yeah,
got to get reps in. So there's a lot of injuries. We had a lot of guys today sit out practice. I'll get to that soon. But I would say most of the injuries seem somewhat minor. There's a couple that might be a little more serious. But as they say, Tom, when it comes to injuries, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. So don't worry about too many of the injuries. Don't worry about too many of the injuries. I think for the most part, this is a pretty healthy team. The guys like Chubb, we know he ain't going to be ready to start the season. Odell Beckham, who's now arguing with fans on social media, which I love, I think, I don't know when he'll be there, but I don't think he's going to miss much time. He's not Will Fuller, folks. So if you're going to compare him to Will Fuller, you got to do a little bit better than that. Maybe he misses a game or two to start the season. Maybe even starts the year in pup. I don't know. But he's not Will Fuller. You're going to see Odell Beckham this year. I promise you that. So just don't go on social media and talk stupid. Really, it makes you look really bad. And then Wynn, as we said, it's not looking promising for the start of the year. But Wynn's another guy. I don't want him starting. I don't want him coming off the bench, actually, because A, he'll actually stay healthy that way. And B, that's kind of the role he should be in at the end of the day. Let's get to the practice notes. A lot of guys today did not practice. And I think part of the reason why, some of them veteran rest days, some of them injuries.
Uh-oh. We lost Mike. Uh-oh. All right, we're going to pivot. We're going to wait for Mike to get back. He was going through the players that missed. Here he is. Look at him, right back in action.
Hold on. We got to slide around here.
This is how you know we're live, folks. We can make mistakes
Poor
too.
Internet totally dropped middle stream. That's never happened before. Actually, I
It
don't
only
think
happens
it was
to
the
me,
internet.
Mike.
Happens to you. I think it was actually a StreamYard glitch because the thing that popped on the screen said StreamYard, not internet. So, and plus I'm back up like 8 seconds later. So it had to be a StreamYard. Poor job by StreamYard. So again, I think a reason a lot of these guys sat today was because they want to give them a rest before the joint practice because they want to see them in the joint practice, and then they might play again Saturday. So here's who did not practice today. Calais Campbell, Jones, as we said, who's injured. Anthony Walker, who never seems to practice. I have no idea what's going on with him. David Long, Ramsey, Holland, Kendall Fuller. Ethan Bonner is still in the concussion protocol. Tyreek Hill, Jeff Wilson, Mostert, Salvin Ahmed, Anthony Schwartz, Tanner Connor, who has some sort of injury. We're just not sure what it is yet. Jody Fortson, Armstead, Jonnu Smith, and Jordan Poyer with the thumb. Just some quick notes. I'm not going to go through a ton of notes here from practice. Jaylen Wright did have a fumble that Jason Maitre recovered. Tua hit Julian Hill for a short pass. Curtis Bolton had a tackle for a loss on Jaylen Wright. Malik Washington dropped a pass from Tua over the middle. Cam Smith, yes, that Cam Smith, had a tackle for a loss on Devon Achane. Brandon Peely was untouched on one play that would have been a sack. Shocking. Somebody got through the offensive line untouched. Who could have saw that coming, Tom? Marcus May had very good coverage on Achane on a pass. Mike Harley, he dropped a Mike White pass. Tua hit Achane for a pass in the flat. Jalen Phillips, this is a big one, not just participated for the third day in a row. He participated in the ever so important 11-on-11 drills. So, again, he might be on a snap count to start the season, but I think if this guy in his third day of practice in a row, it's not like he gave him, one day on, one day off. No, third day in a row, 11-on-11s. He's out there. And I don't think he'll practice for Washington, and he clearly won't play in the preseason game. But the fact he did 3 days in a row and 11-on-11s, that gives me hope that week one he'll be on the field. And yes, it might be on a snap count, but just him there is huge.
Absolutely.
Tom, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing. Having him there is monumental at this point. But it's good. It's good that the players are getting the needed rest. It seems like the team is starting to track in a healthy direction as we approach week one, which is what you want. So I like the approach the Dolphins are making. They're not anyone that's got anything minor. They're not pushing the player. They're making sure they heal up properly, because the last thing you want to do is have someone push themselves in training camp. And, maybe it's a soft tissue injury, like a hamstring or something that will continue to creep up throughout the regular season. So you may as well let the guys rest, let them heal, and be good to go.
Cam Smith had very good coverage on Achane on a play. There were no long passes today. So everyone who likes to see the bombs and all that stuff, there were no long completions. Brandon Peely had a stop on a run play that went for no gain. Agba got past Kendall Lamb with ease. Shocking. Another guy got through the offensive line with ease. Achane had a nice run up the middle in 11-on-11s. Here's another shocking one. Zach Sealer got through the offensive line very easily, and it would have been a sack. Sirianni Neal would have been called for pass interference on a long pass to Braylon Sanders that went incomplete. Isaiah Johnson probably had the best, my guy, Syracuse guy, had the best practice maybe of the day as he broke up a few passes from Skylar Thompson to Malik Washington, one of which in the end zone. Tua did hit Malik Washington for a short pass, and Nick Needham, Tom, had tackle for a loss. those three undrafted rookies in the secondary, Isaiah Johnson, Jason Poyer, and Storm Duck. We're going to get through the 53-man roster and make some early predictions now, but I hope one of those three make the team. It's always a fun story. They're all playing great. I mean, no matter which one they pick, they probably won't go wrong. They've each had their moments. Johnson has had some moments. Storm Duck played great on Friday versus Atlanta. And Jason Poyer, every day I read these reports, his names are all over the place making plays. So I don't know which one. Maybe they keep two even. Who knows? But Chris Grier is a knack for like undrafted guys in the secondary. It just, Cater Kohu, Nick Neat. He just got a knack for it.
Yep. He does. They've done a good job finding those. I mean, I think he's got a pretty good success rate on the undrafted players versus the late round picks recently. So as long as you're finding players that can provide for the team, whether they make the roster or they're on the practice squad, the iron sharpens iron kind of mentality. And I agree with you. I hope maybe one of these guys make the roster. It's tough decisions, especially in that secondary for those guys to get there. But he can't draft a center. That's right, in the chat. Yep, he can't. Well, he did. He was a part of the scouting department when they got Mike Pouncey. So
yeah, we got to go back 15 years. But yeah, okay.
It worked.
It worked out. He was a great player. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Before we get to the rest of the show, everyone in the chat is piling on Chris Grier now. Give Chris a break, man. Now they got me with the giggles. A shout out to everyone watching at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com. It's the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Audible, Podchaser, or YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. No, we'll wait. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We have shows each and every day of the week. Most days we have multiple shows. And yeah, we're going to have a post-game show this Saturday night with myself and Tom. Once that preseason game ends, we'll have a show. Hopefully it doesn't go close to 4 hours like last week. Let's hope. It's a little bit quicker. Got to be more pithy. Get it like a 3 hour, 10-minute mark. Be great this week, Tom. I don't know about you. Let's get this thing over with. No challenges on the spot. Don't challenge a spot foul in the first half of a preseason game. For the love of God, it's not that important. And I'll have another show tomorrow night with a recap of the joint practice with Washington. So be ready for that. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to do some prediction time here. And I have a feeling, because I know Tommy very well, we're going to probably be really close on these. If not even almost exact, dare I say. We're going to trim Miami's roster to 53 men. And I'm going off with how many people at each position that they kind of went off to start last year. Of course, over the course of the year fluctuates when guys get hurt and stuff like that. But generally, I'm going to throw out a number, and it might be one more, one less, or the same. We're going to go through each position group and share our thoughts. So, and I know some guys are going to start on PUP list. We're going to mention that, which means they don't count towards the roster. So that lets someone else make the team for at least a month. And we know the quarterbacks, I just got it at 3, Tom, because even though one is not going to count, they're going to carry 3 in total. And I think, look, as much as I would love for them to make a move here, my whole thing with the quarterback is, which I wrote an article on and I said on a show this week, so I won't go into it in depth. Mike White, Skylar Thompson, loser leaves town. One of you can stay, but one of you's got to go, and then pick up someone else off waiver wires. That's what I hope they do. They're not going to sign Ryan Tannehill. I kind of wish they would, but it's just not going to happen. So I got Tua, White, Skylar, and if it's not White or Skylar, they're going to pick someone else up and let one go because neither one has a future past this year. So I think 3 there, even though I know one counts as like an emergency and all that stuff, but 3 of them, 3 quarterbacks are going to be on this team.
Yeah, I actually wrote down 2 because Skylar or Mike White.
He's not going to count towards the number. I get it. Yeah.
Right. Emergency quarterback. But yeah, they're going to have 3 quarterbacks. And for me personally, when it comes to that backup quarterback position, after watching last week's, it's clear that one of these guys are going to go. Skylar Thompson has been Mike McDaniel's work in progress since 2022. Mike White was signed as a free agent. He's being paid about $5 million a season. So if it was me, I'm waiting on the, when you're making your cuts and you're starting to get down to the wire, you're looking at other teams' quarterbacks that are being released and say, can you find one player that can replace Skylar Thompson or Mike White? And for me personally, if it's the third quarterback on the roster or the emergency quarterback, I'm looking at the situation in New England with Bailey Zapp. If he gets released, if no one's going to trade for him, you should pounce on that kid. I think there's some upside there as a backup quarterback. He's not a starter, folks, believe me. But he can be developed. And, he was in New England, just like the other quarterbacks that were in New England, and they had no coaching there. Their offense was terrible. They stunk. So you could bring him in and, hopefully develop him, and he's going to be cheap.
The other one to keep an eye on in Tennessee is Malik Washington too. They might, because they have Will Levis. They don't need
Malik
Washington.
Willis.
That's what I meant, not Washington. Willis.
He's a dual threat.
Yeah. Again, for a third quarterback, you're just hoping. Look, next year this time we will not be talking Mike White or Skylar Thompson. I don't know who. Someone will be number 2, but it ain't going to be either one of them. Mike White's in the final year of his deal. There's no way they're going to pay to keep him. Skylar Thompson's been here for 3 years, and I know some guys this past week dropped the ball, but he missed guys wide open. It looks like he never ran the offense before. It's his 3rd year in the offense. So I think both will be gone next year. So, yes, as a third, if one of them goes and you pick up someone like Willis or whoever, someone like that, as a third quarterback, who cares? Let's just see if there's something there. And if not, don't worry. He'll be gone next year too. Okay.
Yep.
We spent enough time on these quarterbacks. Running back, fullback. It's either 5 or 6. Last year, when you counted the fullback, it was like 6, but I think this year it's changed a little. I think they're only going to carry 5 because unlike last year, they have much larger needs on the front 7 where they might have to carry more guys, and offensive line they might have to carry more. So I think it's just going to be Mostert, Achane, Wright, Wilson, and Ingram, and you can probably hide Chris Brooks on the practice squad. You probably can, and nobody wants Alvin Akman anymore. We've all seen enough of that. I don't know anyone else who's going to slide through, Tommy. So I've only got 5 at running back, fullback.
I contemplated. I looked at, a lot of the way that the depth chart is kind of looking right now. We'll talk about the other positions on the offense, but, I'm looking at only them having 3. I look at Mostert, Achane, and Jaylen Wright. I think you say goodbye to Ahmed. He hasn't even been in camp yet. So, I mean, yes, we know what he has, and it's not great. I think he's gone. And with, Jeff Wilson Jr., he's the type of player that could be available via trade because he is a vet and he's on a cheaper contract. And if a team loses a, depth running back player, maybe number 2 or number 3, Jeff Wilson could be the guy that can get moved. And, I'm up in the air on it. I have, Ingold is a part of that room one way or another because fullback.
That's what my Ingold.
He's a lead blocker, so I think you're carrying 3 plus Ingold. I could see the argument why you're going to keep like a guy like Jeff Wilson.
Well, the argument is because the first 2 are always hurt. I don't trust Mostert and Achane to stay healthy at any point. So that's why and Wright ain't going nowhere clearly. So that's why give me Wilson or Chris Brooks. I want Wilson here because yes, Wilson's probably their biggest trade asset. But how many teams are going to trade for a running back when you're going to have 50 running backs on the open market that signed for nothing in like a week and a half? So I don't know if anyone's actually going to part with anything.
True, but a lot
maybe
of
the Cowboys, because they're in big need of a running back. But that's the only team I actually think.
But when you think about it with Wilson as a trade chip, he probably has more. He's going to have more experience and he's going to have a little bit more juice than a lot of those undrafted rookies. And a team like you said, Dallas. Maybe there's another team or a couple teams in the market if something happens to a starting running back that they'll give up like a 6th or 7th round pick. You know what I mean?
I actually think to the Browns, if Chubb's, I think he's healthy, but I don't know if he's 100%. And if he's not,
I think he starts the year on pup.
Yeah. So somebody like that, like the Browns, might be in the market for a running back, but they're going to carry either 3 or 4 running backs and a fullback in Ingold. That's probably the neighborhood. They're not going to carry. I think Chris Brooks. I know fans love him. Look, he had one great game versus the Broncos. Everyone had a great game versus the Broncos. They weren't tackling anybody. I don't see the love of Chris Brooks, and I think he's someone you can slide through waivers and put on the practice. But I don't see a big market out there for Chris Brooks. That's just me. Call me crazy. And plus, Mike McDaniel likes fast running backs. He don't want the guys that are like run over you. He just doesn't. Wide receiver, I think it's going to be 6.
Yep.
I think OBJ starts the year on PUP. Again, not to upset him. I know he's on social media. I don't want to upset you. Just a prediction. I don't know. I think he starts the year on PUP. So they will carry Tyreek, Waddle, River Craycraft, Braxton Berrios, Malik Washington, and Eric Ezukanma. There's your 6. Now, when OBJ is ready to come back after a month or so, then it comes down to, in my opinion, if Malik Washington can be trusted to return kicks, goodbye, Braxton Berrios. If you cannot trust Malik Washington to return kicks, he stays. Goodbye, Eric Ezukanma. So that's where I'm there at wide receiver 6. OBJ starts on PUP, and when he comes back, you decide which one of the 2 special teams guys you want to keep because you probably don't need both.
Right. I have the exact same 6 that you had, obviously with Odell Beckham Jr. potentially starting the year on PUP. And I agree. You're looking to say goodbye. If once Odell is back in the room, you're looking to say goodbye to either Berrios. I don't think Craycraft will go anywhere, or Eric Ezukanma. I know Eric is the tallest wide receiver in the building.
It matters.
And that matters. So, but you're not kicking Malik Washington to the curb because another team's just going to jump on him.
Yep.
So you're going to have to say goodbye to a vet. So in my opinion, it could be Berrios. But in time we'll see. There's a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made in that wide receiver room. I know from a depth perspective, when Beckham comes back, you still have to be mindful that he hasn't been the healthiest guy in the last 3 years. So you got to be mindful on what you're going to do. I mean, clearly if you can sneak Washington or Eric Ezukanma on the practice squad, you can protect them on the practice squad so nobody else can get them. So you got to be careful. It's a very tricky situation when Beckham comes back.
Yeah. Tight end. Now I checked this and I was shocked. Well, but I shouldn't have been shocked. For most of last year, Miami only carried 2 tight ends because they never used them. Now, obviously, that's going to change this year a little bit. So, but they have so much depth at this one spot. And I think they're only going to carry 3 times because you can use Ingold as like an H-back tight end. And I think, again, they have needs on the offensive line. They got needs on the front 7. I don't think they're going to carry 4 tight ends. 5, no way. So I think Smythe is obviously going to stay. I think he's a trade chip, but they seem to love him. So Smythe is staying. Jonnu Smith is obvious. He's going to stay. And Hill, just because he's just a blocking monster, I think he's going to stay. And then you try to sneak Tanner Connor on the practice squad. If he's even healthy, we have no idea what happened to him in that game Friday, and he hasn't, and they haven't even spoken about him this week. He has some sort of injury. It might be minor, but it could be not minor. I think they'll carry 3, and you got Ingold as an H-back as your 4th. If you told me they're going to carry 4, I wouldn't be shocked because I think Fortson, who's at an up and down camp, and Connor, if he's healthy enough, have shown something here this camp, and they're great. But for right now, on August 14th, I'm just going to predict 3.
I'm with you. I have 3 highlighted on my screen. Now, again, there's a name here that you could move in a trade. He's on his last year of a contract, or maybe 2 years left on his contract, but it's a cheap number. If a team needs tight end depth, again, if they don't have anyone that they truly like, it happened with the Jaylen Ramsey trade. The Dolphins had a tight end that was just sitting there. Hunter Long was a draft pick, and he was seldomly used, and someone offered Jaylen Ramsey in the trade for a 3rd round pick and Hunter Long. I think Durham Smythe could be a dangle as a trade piece to get back like a 6th or 7th round pick as well. Because I had a hard time deciding, do you keep, my guys are Durham Smythe, Jonnu Smith, and Julian Hill. Because I think Julian Hill has really good blocking ability.
Yeah.
where, you have decisions to make. Jody Fortson, really tall target. He's fast, right? And we know Mike McDaniel likes speed, so you can kind of give or take with Jody Fortson. Tanner Connor showcased a little bit of his ability in the game on Friday last week, where there's a possibility that they would want to keep him. So, like you said, there is good depth at tight end. I think there's one guy that can be expendable in a trade, again, for a late round pick, and go from there.
Yeah. Offensive line, I have Wynn starting the year on PUP, and I got him carrying 10. My 10 are, I get here, Armstead, Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, Jack Driscoll, Austin Jackson, Lester Cotton, Aaron Brewer, Patrick Paul, Kendall Lamb, and Andrew Meyer. Because I think the 10th guy, I mean, you go a few ways with the 10th guy. You go Sean Harlow, but I think they're going to go Andrew Meyer. I have a gut feeling. But 10 is the number, I think, because, again, Armstead's never healthy. He's on PUP to start the year. And I think you need as many centers as possible because Aaron Brewer might miss the first week or two of the season. Who knows? Possible. Not saying it will happen. And if he does, then you got to then you got to start moving people around. Liam goes to center. Then you probably put Lester Cotton or Jack at right guard to start. And then you better have some guys behind him because if something happens to Liam, then you got to either move Jack Driscoll from right guard to center, or maybe just go straight to Andrew Meyer. That's my only logic with Meyer as the 10th, but I think it's 10's the number, Tom.
I got 9 for the number, and pretty much every player you mentioned except for Meyer.
Okay, and again, that might be it too. It will be 9 or 10 because they need it, especially if Aaron Brewer has to miss a couple games at the start of the year, but he's not on PUP per se. Because once they play the first game, they have a second game 4 days later. So if you're not playing the first one, odds are you're probably not playing the second. So that's why I think 10, just because those first 2 games are so close to each other. Let's move to the other side. Well, first off, let's get rid of special teams. Jason Sanders, Ferguson, Bailey.
Hopefully
and so those 3 are going to make the team. Front 5, Campbell, Sealer, Benito Jones, Peely, Neville Gallimore. Is that it?
I've got Sealer, Jones, Campbell, Hand, Mack, and Harris. I've got 6 on the D-line.
You got 6. So you have Harris. I don't have Harris. Okay. Wait. Do you have Mack too?
Yeah.
So wait a minute. You have Campbell, Sealer. So you don't have Peely?
No, I have Jonathan Harris over Peely for right now. I figure Peely might be on the practice squad, but
okay.
Just for experience, I have Harris in there, but you can give or take that.
Exactly. This is like razor thin stuff here. Edge rushers. Chubb starts the year on PUP. Phillips, Long, Brooks, Quentin Bell, Chop Robinson, Muhammad Kamara, Agba, and Riley. 7 linebackers, counting edge and linebackers. I got 7. You have anyone else making this team?
I have a bigger number because of the emphasis on special teams. You need quicker guys. I actually have 10 linebackers total.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Phillips, Long, Brooks.
Okay.
I got, let's see, Phillips, Long, Brooks, Agba, Bell, Walker, Riley, Chop, Muhammad, Tyndall, and yeah, that's what I got.
I forgot Walker. He's going to make this team. Yeah. Channing Tyndall, I think you're nuts. Okay, let's go to the secondary as we wrap up here. Holland, Poyer, Ramsey, Kendall Fuller, Cater Kohu, Sirianni Neal, Cam Smith, Marcus May, Elijah Campbell, Ethan Bonner, and Nick Needham. I have 11. I
have 11.
Okay.
I've got different names. I've got Ramsey, Fuller, Kohu, Holland, Poyer, Cam Smith, Ethan Bonner, Nick Needham, Elijah Campbell, Sirianni Neal, Patrick McMorris.
You know what? I missed him too, McMorris. Boy, I did a poor job in my prep. Yeah, McMorris will make it. He might knock out Nick Needham. I know it's going to drive Sarny nuts. He might knock out Nick Needham. Yeah. And I didn't have any. So some of the guys I didn't have, we didn't have the tight ends we spoke about. Neither one of us had Storm Duck, Isaiah Johnson, or Jason Maitre. I think there's a chance one of them. Would I be shocked if Marcus May got cut? No. And maybe keep one of the younger guys? Yes. Because you do have position flexibility here a little bit with some of these guys. I didn't have, neither one of us had Deshaun Hand either making the team. So, again, these are just guesses. We'll have a better idea in a couple weeks. Maybe we'll probably do a show maybe as we get closer to the cuts and do a prediction there. But, yeah, it's outside of like 3 or 4 spots, Tom, I think we got a good idea who's making this team. It's not much up for grabs.
Yeah,
which is a good problem to have. Very good problem to have.
It is. And one of the things I'd like to mention at the linebacker spot, I know I have Tyndall on there, but Bradley Chubb's going to be back at some point. So
yeah, Bradley Chubb. And plus, if some of these other teams make cuts, obviously, which they will, if they put in waiver claims for them, then a few days later, guys who think they made the team might be gone. I think Channing Tyndall might be like one of the first ones. Like the NCAA tournament, last 4 in, first 4 out, might be last 4 in, first 4 out once they put in some waiver claims. And someone like Channing Tyndall or even like Marcus May, they might be in trouble per se once they put in claims if they get anybody. Who knows? But that's all for today's show. Thank you all for listening. Everyone check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com. Be sure to follow Tom on Twitter at DolphinsTalk.com. Follow myself on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at DolphinsTalk. DolphinsTalk Extra, Patreon.com/DolphinsTalk. Everyone, have a great rest of your night. Have a great Thursday. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.
Hands up.